Yo, what's going on, everybody? So, after this past week with the release of One Piece Chapter 1030, I feel like Oda's kind of opened up the Pandora's box in terms of whetting the community's appetite around the mystery that is Devil Fruit Awakening. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, sit back, relax, drop a like on the video, make sure you subscribe, and let's get straight into it. Yeah, so just as a quick side note, we will be discussing parts of chapter 1030 in this video. If you haven't, here's your first and final spoiler warning. So please go read the chapter and come back and watch this video. So like I said before, at the end of the chapter, Oda definitely opened Pandora's box when it comes to awakenings because he gave us a visual of not just one awakening, but two. Of course, the Devil Fruit users being Law and Kid, respectively. With Law, his awakening is broken down into three separate parts. That being Crew, which essentially he forms a room around his sword, which means he could probably form it around other objects. The second part being Anesthesia, in which he injects his sword into his opponent. And initially, this step is harmless, but it attacks you from the inside out. And the third and final step being Shockwave, in which Law defibrillates his opponent from the inside out. And in this case, we saw him shock Big Mom's mouth. I guess he thought it would shut her up. In the scenario which happens with Captain Kidd, his awakening takes place in two parts. The first part being a sign, in which Kidd gets close to his opponent, and by touching them, he can assign a certain level of magnetism to said opponent, thus making them a human magnet. The second step being Punk Crash, in where Kidd in one move takes all the metal and surrounding structural steel in the area and uses it to converge on his opponent, thus crushing them. Now, of course, chapter 1030 wasn't the most hyped chapter. However, it's things like this, when you flush out your power system, that allows me to appreciate the less exciting chapters. But just how do these two powers fit into the awakening umbrella? Well, let's just start by defining exactly what awakenings are. Devil Fruit awakenings are when Devil Fruit users essentially achieve the next step in their Devil Fruit power, allowing them greater ability and greater control over the power that's been granted to them by their Devil Fruit. It can allow them to alter themselves in different ways and, in some cases, even the environment, and use it to their advantage. We know that in the case of Don Quixote do Flamingo, his base Devil Fruit power gave him the ability to control strings. It gave him the ability to control people, fly, stitch things together, including his own organs, and a litany of other abilities as well. But we know that when his Devil Fruit was awakened, it allowed him to turn anything he touched into string, giving him a greater advantage on the battlefield, especially when you can turn the entire battlefield into the string that you're able to manipulate. We saw the same thing against Katakuri, when Luffy went from having to dodge and defend against the physical person that is Katakuri to the entire mirror world being turned into flowing mochi. I think a greater degree of control in one's power is really where the advantage comes into play with awakening. Because in these new cases, for Law and Kid, both of their Devil Fruits already allow them to control the environment around themselves. So there would be really no advantage with just giving them control in their environment. However, with their awakenings, they have a greater degree of control with their Devil Fruit. For instance, with Law, Room allows him to create a pseudo space in which he has control over everything in that space. But when it's awakened, he's able to take that same room and coat an object with it, giving that object seemingly the abilities of the room itself. And now the natural physics of that object no longer apply. He can now take an object like a sword and pierce an impenetrable object without actually touching the object itself. This all comes down to Law having a greater degree of control of the room. With Kid, his natural devil fruit ability gives him a huge degree of control over all steel and metal within his surrounding area. Big and small, Kid is able to manipulate it in all different kinds of ways. However, when his devil fruits awaken, using a sign, he can assign a magnetic polarity to his opponent, now turning his opponent into a human magnet. They will have a push or a pull against all the metal in the area. And it almost begs the question, would Kid be able to actually control his opponent themselves, considering they are now a magnet? Now, of course, these types of abilities are much more apparent with Paramecia types. And in fact, Paramecia types, in terms of awakening, have been the most fleshed out in the series so far. However, we know that both Zoans and Logias both do have awakening. In the case of Zoans, it gives them an even higher boost in terms of strength, speed, stamina, and healing. And in the case of Logias, even though we haven't physically seen it in the series yet, we know that their abilities, when awakened, have the possibility of permanently altering the environment around them, like in the case of Punk Hazard. Now, it would be impossible without headcanon to give you a long list of devil fruit users whose abilities have been awakened. And in the main canon story so far, there's only been 6 named characters that we know have firmed awakened devil fruit ability. Those characters being Kid, Law, Dofi, Katakuri, Akainu, and Aokiji, respectively. Say this to say that this is an ability reserved for the upper echelon of devil fruit users, and it's definitely an exclusive group in the story. And of course, with eventually including Luffy into this group, the numbers will increase. However, I can't imagine the Straw Hats going up, let's say, the Blackbeard Pirates in the end, and all of them are devil fruit users which are awakened. I believe that in some cases, yes, maybe Blackbeard's devil fruit will be awakened, maybe a couple of others, but all of their devil fruits will not be awakened. Some devil fruits will just be OP naturally, like you have Katarina Devon's fruit, allowing her to change into anyone or anybody. We don't even know the extent of that yet. But of course, we don't need her devil fruit to be awakened because her devil fruit's OP already. I could definitely see some of the admirals and vice admirals being awakened, considering 2 admirals have them already. But I personally believe that if Oda wants to keep it from turning into a mess, let's just keep the group small. And speaking of a mess, that brings me to my next question. How will this affect fights going forward? And I guess the short answer is that it doesn't. At the end of the day, it still comes down to the power and ability of the devil fruit user themselves. We saw in the case of Luffy versus Doflamingo that Doflamingo pulled out this ability towards the end of the fight. Luffy used Gear 4 and Dofi realized that his regular string ability wasn't gonna be able to cut it anymore. But instead of panicking, he just awakened his devil fruit, allowing him to turn all of Dressrosa pretty much into string. But this didn't stop Luffy. At best, it was just able to delay Gear 4. Gear 4 was still stronger and faster than anything Doflamingo could use, really putting into perspective the gulf in class between the 2 fighters. Earlier in the fight, Dofi explained to Luffy that sure, Gear 2nd is fast, but it doesn't hit hard enough. And Gear 3rd, it hits hard enough, but it's too slow. Luffy combining the 2, creating Gear 4th, made Luffy the ability to not only hit harder, but be fast enough to dodge and get around Dofi's string. Add an almost full body coating of armament hockey on top of that, and now you have a non-awakened devil fruit user with the ability to be able to beat an awakened devil fruit user. So at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It just comes down to whoever's wielding these fruits. And of course, last but not least, this wouldn't be a theory video if I didn't give you exactly what I thought Luffy's awakening will be. And I'm not gonna lie, Oda definitely made this a real head scratcher for me because Gear 4 almost already acts like an awakening. And I know most of the community sees Gear 5 coming right around the corner. I've seen many people talking about how Gear 5 will be Luffy's Devil Fruit awakening. And I see no real reason to dispute that. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to assume that it's something separate. Now, me personally, I can really see Luffy's Devil Fruit awakening being something similar to Dofi and Katakuri, in which Luffy's able to touch the environment around him and turn it into rubber. This will allow Luffy to not only move in conjunction with the surrounding areas during battles, but it'll allow him to have a rebound effect in fights, creating sort of a wrestling ring for future battles. Just imagine Luffy pummeling his opponents against the tightropes in a boxing ring. However, I can also see Luffy having an ability similar to Captain Kidd, in where he turns his opponent into rubber itself, dampening each blow, essentially making his opponent's hits useless. I definitely lean towards the former ability though, because the second one doesn't really match Oda's writing style, and he definitely loves to write Luffy having slug fights with his opponents. So I just can't see Luffy dampening his opponent to the point where his opponent's attacks no longer hurt him. This is a guy that defeated the smooth, suave Captain Kuro with an iron headbutt to the face. But anyways, let me know what you think. Go ahead, drop a comment down in the comment section with what you think Luffy's awakening will be. We've already seen Law's and Kid's awakening in this past chapter, so I can't help but think that Luffy's Devil Fruit awakening is right around the corner. I'm not sure we're exactly ready for Gear 5 yet, so I think that Luffy's awakening will definitely be the catalyst to give him the edge over Kaido. He's already going toe-to-toe with Kaido as it is, and we know that Kaido can't necessarily just beat Luffy in the state that he is now, but Luffy can't beat Kaido either, so he'll definitely need an edge. So let me know what you think down below. Remember to drop a like and subscribe. Go ahead and share this video. Remember to stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you guys next time.